What if you could retire in your 30s or 40s? Is it possible? Let's talk about it.
When I tell people I want to retire at 40, they laugh, but I have a plan. It costs me about $50,000 to exist. That's my bills, my mortgages, just to be here. But it costs me another $50,000 probably to travel, to spend, to splurge, just to have a little bit more money, some savings. I need about $100,000 to live off every single year, and to have that, I need $2.5 million invested. Now I have 1 point and a bit million invested already, so I can live off the 50K, but I need another million to get me there, and then I can retire by 40. And I know not everyone is lucky enough as me to have begun investing so young, but the truth is you can start now, and you do not have to wait till 65 to retire. You can get there at 50, at 45, maybe even sooner, but it really pays to get started.
So, a couple things to discuss there. Retiring at 40, having $2.5 million in investments, and also starting investing young, and how much that really does help. That's the first thing I want to touch on with this video, is she nailed it. If you're a young individual and you're watching this video right now, how lucky you are. The reason I say that is because it's so true, guys. The earlier you get started investing, the better off and the more money you're going to make as your life goes on, because of two words: compound interest. See, when you invest money when you're at a young age, 18, 19, 20, 21, however old when you get started in investing, time in the market is what gives you that upside as prices continue to grow. As inflation gets higher, so do assets. And as assets grow, so does that original amount of money that you invested when you're at 18 or in your young 20s. And then when it has all that time to grow, by the time you're 30, 40, that money you invested back in when you're 18, 19, 20 is going to see some major growth over those years. And the more you can pile in at the beginning, the better off you're going to be down the road. And then in return, the more likely it's for you to be able to retire at an earlier age. Now, if you guys haven't catched on yet, this video is going to be a lot about the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. If you guys have not heard about this yet, FIRE, as I said, stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. This means people in the FIRE community have one goal, and that goal is to become financially independent. That means you have enough money coming in from your assets or your investments in order to cover your needs, in order to cover your living expenses. That means you are independent on your own self. You don't need a paycheck. You don't need to go to work. You can fully cover your life expenses based on your investments that you've made. It'd be a great dream, right? That's a great goal to have. And then retire early, this aspect of the FIRE movement, is people are trying to hit this goal at a much younger age of typical retirement, which is around 60 to 65 years old. I've talked to people who have retired in their 30s, retired in their 40s, but there's one major problem here that I see, and I've kind of experienced myself, but we'll talk about that later.
Here's exactly how much money you need if you want to retire. So you could spend 4% throughout retirement without running out. So if you have $1 million in retirement, you could spend $40,000 a year with pretty much a non-existent probability of, running out before you're not here anymore. The issue with that, though, is that if you're retiring young, the 4% rule has a very small failure rate after 30 years. All you need to do is take how much you need to live every single year. So let's just say it's $300,000, multiply that by 33, and that gives you almost, $9 million and some change. That's how much you need in order to retire indefinitely off $300,000 a year.
So the 4% rule, which the man himself, Graham Stephan here, was talking about, that is what's talked about a lot in the financial independence space, is living off the 4% rule. And basically, as Graham stated, 4% of the amount of money you have invested in your accounts is what you can live off of. So if you can live off $40,000, then you only need to get $1 million in your brokerage account to live off that $40,000 that you can pull from, because generally how this math works is they say the compound interest, or the interest that's going to be earned on an annual basis, is between 8 and 12% on average in the stock market for the history of the market. 8 to 10% every single year is what you're expected on average to earn in the stock market. So if you pull out only 4% that is in your brokerage account, it's going to grow still at an 8 to 10% on average every year. So that spread between the 4% you're pulling out and the 8 to 10% that it's going to make on that money, you should never run out of money in retirement. And that's how people are kind of planning that based on the retire early status. So the 4% rule is a very good rule to understand, and it also gives a lot of people a way to think about retirement, not even just retiring early, but thinking about retirement in a way of saying, how could I live out my years and still have a lot of money left over? The 4% rule is a great way to do that. Now, in retirement, everyone's ideas and practices are a little different. Some people may want to spend all their money by the time they're gone. Some people want to leave money for a little bit of a legacy for their kids and grandchildren. It's all about what you want to do. But the 4% rule, when I learned about it, it was a great way for me to understand how to kind of look ahead in the future and truly understand how retirement works. You're pulling money that's already invested in your account out of to live off of. You can pull it out every month, every week, however that money divvies up to be, however much you need. And it's just basically like you're paying yourself from your investments. It's a great goal to have once you really understand how it works. Now, what I mentioned from that previous clip, talking about some of the bad things that come with retirement early that I've kind of experienced myself, although I technically never really retired early, I have had quite a bit of downtime. I mean, 8 months where I didn't really work. I took a break because I could afford to. But there's some things I learned with this that this video is really going to help explain. And then I'll have some of my own thoughts on this as well when it comes to retiring early at a very young age.
Retirement, good thing or bad thing?
Well,
55 years old or 62 years old or 60, is it a good thing or a bad thing?
no, I do not like that.
Let me read this to you.
Extend
Early retirement before the age of 6, I'm reading it to you from my computer.
Yeah.
Early retirement before the age of 62 has been associated with higher mortality rate risk in some instances. A study of Shell Oil Company, watch this. A study of Shell Oil Company found those who retire at 55. Listen to this, Tom. Tom, listen to this, Tom. A study of Shell employees found that those who retire at 55 lived to be 65, died 37% sooner than those who retire at 65.
They're not doing anything. They're just stagnant.
Those
sitting
who
around.
retire at 55, 10 years before 65, they died 37% sooner. And in general, people who retire at 55 are 89% more likely to die within 10 years.
That's
Those that retire at 55 are 89% more likely to die within 10 years than those who retire at 65.
So if you want to live longer, work longer. No, but for real, guys, retirement sounds sweet, right? Retirement sounds sweet when you hate what you're doing in life. Like when you're sitting at your cubicle or you're out in the blazing hot sun, if you're a laborer or something out working out in the field, and you're looking up, you're like, gosh, dang, this freaking sucks. I would love to be retired sipping cocktails on the beach, but you're stuck at your job. So I think first that I want to mention here is when it comes to retiring early, you have this goal, right? And there's been talks about this in the fire space a lot. You have these goals and aspirations, and the journey is to get to that FI number, whatever that number is that you can pull out of the 4% rule. Let's say it's the $1 million. Your goal is to get $1 million invested in the market and pull 4% out, live on 40 grand the rest of your life and be happy, right? Well, the problem is during that journey of getting to the, let's call it $1 million mark in your investment portfolio, once you get there and you hit the goal, then you can sit back and enjoy it for a little bit. And you're like, oh yeah, this is nice. This is cool. I'm retired. I did it. I succeeded. But if you're 30, 40 years old and you're still young in life, you may look at your retirement and you may enjoy it for the first year. The first year may be amazing. But for most individuals, I feel like once they're in retirement at a young age and they've already golfed enough, they've already sat on the beach enough, you start to get bored. You have no drive, especially coming off of such a big goal like getting to financial independence. Once you've kind of checked that off the list, now you're like, what's next in life? Okay, what am I working towards next? And the problem is you can face a lot of mental issues and also physical issues once you hit retirement if you're not treating it the right way. Now, if you're keeping yourself busy, you're staying on a strict health, fitness program, you are taking your cooking seriously, and then you have a few things that you plan throughout your day to keep you busy, well, then you may be all right. You may be all right. But for someone like me, who kind of experienced this last year. I took some downtime from work, and I really figured out that I thought I wanted to kind of get to a point, sit back and relax and be like, yeah, I'm okay right here. Like, I could do a little better, but where I'm at, it's like, all right. I quickly found out that as soon as maybe 3 months hit, my mind was racing on what I wanted to do next. But this comes into what I want to talk about next is retiring early may be an exciting thought. But once you get into retirement, if you're not staying active, if you're not staying, physically fit, eating healthy, like things can go south very fast. And then on top of that, you have no drive or no real goal next to do something in life. So that's where I like to find this happy medium. I don't know what to call it because you're not retiring, but you're financially independent, basically. You're set up financially, but you're not retiring early. The reason I like this is because when you get your finances set up and you can work it to a way where you're becoming financially independent, well, then you get to start having a little bit more freedom in your life. And freedom may not be going and sitting on the beach for, every single day for the rest of your life or going to play golf every day. The freedom means you no longer have to keep that job that you hate. The freedom is you can choose to leave your corporate job and go start maybe a business or a side hustle while you're still working at your job. Or maybe you choose to take a little bit of a less stressful job, maybe that comes with a little bit of a pay cut, but you can do that because your finances are in order and you're now set up. And maybe you're not even all the way financially independent yet. But those are some of the freedoms that come along with having your finances set up. So working towards financial independence and retiring early, but missing out on that retiring early part and now going to find a fun project for you to work on. Like for me right now, my projects are YouTube, social media, and growing in real estate. Like that's my main thing right now. And last year when I was struggling with some stuff mentally, I didn't have anything that I was working on or working towards. I was kind of just at this spot in life. I'm 33 years old and I don't know what to do with my life. It was a very, very weird feeling and spot to be in at 33 years old. So here I am now. I've kind of forced myself into something. I'm also looking at taking on another role in another separate part of a career that has to do with real estate. I'll talk about that in the future if that pops up and ends up happening. But that was a very long, drawn out rant, but I think it's very important to listen to and understand.
How early am I trying to retire? This is very aggressive. I'm trying to retire in my 30s. I'm 27 right now, and this is not impossible. So just to put this into context, last month, January, I saved/invested over 60% of my income. I work full-time in tech, and I have a side hustle, which at this point is basically like a second full-time job, but it's fun to me. It brings in extra money. And the thing that people don't understand is retirement is not an age. It's an amount of money that you can have invested where each year when you take out a little bit of money to live on, the money that you have will still continue to grow and make up that difference. So that is really what you're targeting, not the age of 65, or they're talking about raising the retirement age to 70. If you have enough money to live on and it's in certain accounts, you can retire early. And I probably sound crazy talking about this, but it's something that I just didn't know about until I had a financial planning internship. And my manager told me oh, if you have time, you can read financial publications online, whatever. And I stumbled into the FIRE movement, Financial Independence Retire Early, read all these blogs about people who, some of them went very extreme where they didn't have a car. They would just bike everywhere and bought everything in bulk. And some people are doing it slower because even if you retired at the age of 55, that's still early. That's still an extra 10 years of your life where you're not spending 40 hours working for someone else. So there's obviously different levels to this. I just say in my 30s because that's broad enough where if I turn a certain age and I'm not retired yet, I'm not gonna be oh my God, I did make it. And obviously plans can change, but I invest a shit ton of money right now. So that's it. I probably will make a longer, more in-depth video on this on YouTube, so stick around.
That's how they do it, guys. I would say I'm still part of the FIRE movement. The FIRE community is something I found years ago in my financial journey. When I first got started, I luckily stumbled upon an article by Mr. Money Mustache. If you guys haven't heard of him yet, Go read his blog. He's got some good stuff. But as I've grown a little older and realized that life for me is more about chasing towards something that I want to do in life instead of running away from something that I don't want to do, that's why I'm like half in on the financial independence, but I'll probably always have to keep working because that's just how my head is just built. Like that's how I'm built. I can take long breaks off and I'm good with that, but after a few months, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to get back in the saddle and get this puppy going again. Now, how a lot of people do this, guys, is whenever you're watching this, you may be like, well, how can I start investing for financial independence, retire early? Now, a lot of people will use brokerage accounts. Now, there's retirement accounts and things and tricks you can do, but I'm not going to explain that in this video. You guys can go look that up. But basically, the very simple elementary version is you open a taxable brokerage account in Fidelity, Vanguard, or Public. I have a link down below in the description if you guys want to use Public. And you just invest as much money as you can into these brokerage accounts. Now, when you're investing money inside these brokerage accounts, you have to pick investments. You have to pick investments to invest in inside the brokerage accounts. Now, one thing I'm a big fan of, and a lot of people enjoy that aren't trying to pick stocks, is they invest in what's a broad-based market index fund. So they are tracking the market. These index funds or these ETFs are tracking the overall market. Something like VTI, Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, or ETF, or VOO, which tracks the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is the 500 largest companies in the United States stock market. Now, when people say they're beating the market or tracking the market or the market has average 8 to 10% returns, that generally is coming from the S&P 500. So if you just invest in the S&P 500 or the total stock market, you sit back, relax, maybe have a little bit of international in there just to diversify a little bit. That's how they're doing it. That's the simplicity of investing for financial independence. Have money going in every single month, decrease your spending, increase your income, and then have that savings rate like she talked about. She had a 60% savings rate. The higher you can make that, the faster you can get to financial independence. But I also learned that I want to enjoy my life along the way and along the journey by finding something that I can do that I can love, or at least moderately enjoy. Like obviously everything we do, you have shitty moments, but if you can find something that you decently enjoy, or it's like not too bad, and then you're also working to become financially independent, like that's like the best of both worlds. Because you can enjoy both journeys, the journey to financial independence and the journey to just succeeding in your career and growing further.
Most people that retire at 55, they often die before 65. Statistics show that it's better to have something to do, a purpose, a dream, a legacy, to live until the day you die, not die prematurely. And so having hobbies, passion, purpose, something greater than just simply your job. My mother, for example, is 75 and she loves working. And I do believe that is one of the main things that's really keeping her alive. And you see this also with couples, maybe one of the spouse dies and they soon die afterwards. Having a good community, having good friendships, relationships, family around you, these are the things that keep you living longer. I am a firm believer, there's no retirement for me at all. What's the purpose? Maybe I work smarter instead of harder like I did in my 40s or even my 50s. I keep working smarter, refine my knowledge and my offerings, and so I don't have to work as hard, but I keep working and I'm motivated by my purpose.
That's the truth, guys. I mean, when it comes down to it, we are born and meant to work towards something in life. I mean, agree with me if you will, but when you don't have a goal, or you don't have something you're working towards, or you don't keep yourself busy, and when you hit retirement and you're like, I'm just gonna sit back and Netflix and chill all day, there's no success or drive in that. That doesn't keep us going as humans. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm down to Netflix and chill every now and then, especially when the wife's joining me. If you know what I'm saying here. But that's not my everyday living. Like, I'll choose a day maybe where I'm like, I need to sit down, relax, and not do anything today. I just want to be a couch potato. I want to play some Fortnite with my son, and I want to watch some TV and just chill out. Like, I need those reset days. I know myself. And when I had this time frame of thinking I was maybe like kind of going to take a long break from just work, I quickly found out how wrong I was. So I want people to understand, you guys watching, that it may not be the goal is the end game, the retirement. I think the true goal in life is finding something that you can do, or finding something that you're truly passionate about and figuring out how to make money from that, or at least finding a job that is not as stressful and not something that you absolutely hate, and then maybe having a side hustle or some sort of business you're starting up, or a second job even that you don't maybe have to start at the bottom, but if you work your way up, you can become more successful in that career path. I think the biggest thing is finding something in life that you don't have to run from. That's where a lot of people in the fire community, they're all running. Again, I was part of it. I still consider myself part of the community, but when you can flip it on like a 180 and say, I don't want to be running from something in life, although I still want to be working towards financial independence. It needs to be where you need to find a spot in life where you love where you're at. You love the job you have, or the career path you're on, or the business you've started, but you're still working towards financial independence. That way you have the best of both worlds. You're doing something you love, even though it still has bad days, everything does, but you also have your finances in order. And it can be done, guys. It's very tough to do it in today's age. But when you have a mindset shift financially, it is so powerful what you can do for yourself. Because as I've said it before in videos, and I'm going to say it again, no one's coming to save you. It's up to you to fix the mess that you've got yourself in now. That's all I got, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.